Hi, I'm Steve Cadigan, the author of Workquake, and someone who is completely obsessed about the future of work and building better talent strategies. On today's shows, I'm going to talk to you about how COVID has created the opportunity of a lifetime for us to build a better future of work. Why your attachment to tenure is really foolish. Why you should stop hiring just based on experience and focus more on talent. And why your alumni network matters more than ever and may be the greatest untapped network.
Congratulations! You are tuned into Dov Baron's Leadership and Loyalty Show, the #1 podcast for Fortune 500 executives and those who are dedicated to creating a quantum leap in leadership. Your host, Dov Baron, he's an executive mentor to leaders like you, a contributing writer for Entrepreneur Magazine, CEO World, and he's been featured on CNN, Fox, CBS, and many other notable sites. Dov Baron is an international business speaker who was named by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Now, over to Dov Baron.
Welcome, dear friends, fans, and fellow aficionados of leadership excellence. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Leadership and Loyalty Tips for Executives. With the millennial generation came the desire for greater autonomy, a desire to work in an environment that actually cared about the employees. Furthermore, millennials wanted to work for an organization that was committed to purpose beyond profit. As we record this, older millennials are already in their 40s. They've become less dependent on a job, and they're now have developed an entire gig economy. Lots has changed. Then came the pandemic. And what has followed has become known as the Great Resignation. The future has never been more uncertain for both employers and employees. Both face the same profoundly unsettling dilemma. Neither knows what skills they need to develop for the future. Futurists tell us, in fact, that over 50% of jobs today will soon be replaced by automation or AI, and the shelf life of skills is rapidly diminishing. Longstanding industries and industry leaders are going to be massively disrupted, and some will actually simply disappear. These staggering changes are challenging our concepts of what career really looks like today and how we should build organizations moving forward. We are facing what our guest today calls a workquake. The question is, can we survive it? And can we even thrive in it? Well, that's where we're going on the next 2 episodes, so stay tuned. As always, we need your help in staying relevant, so please get yourself over to wherever it is that you tune into the show from. Do us a favor, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. If you are a regular listener, big thank you to you for making us the #1 podcast globally for Fortune 500 listeners, and we are honored and grateful to be cited by Inc.com as the #1 podcast to make you a better leader. By the way, in case you're curious, I'm Dov Baron. I am your host, and I'm here to assist you tapping into the one thing in your business that changes everything by transforming meaning into action. If you're curious to know more, go over to dovbaron.com. That's DOVBARON.com. All right, let's strip it down and dive right in. The pandemic has had profound impact on every area of our lives. The shockwaves have impacted everything from physical and mental health to supply chains and political power. However, I put it to you that this is also a perfect opportunity to tackle the challenges that we have been ignoring or at least denying. How? Well, let's find out. Because our guest for the next 2 episodes is Steve Cadigan. Steve sees his mission in life to help individuals and organizations unlock their greatness and discover their magic. Steve Cadigan is an expert in the future of work and is considered a corporate culture guru, bringing winning insights from over 30 years in HR experience to industry titans like Google, Salesforce, the Royal Bank of Scotland, Kinsey, the BBC, as well as venture capital firms like Anderson Horowitz. Steve Cadigan speaks globally at conferences and major universities. Steve is famous for architecting LinkedIn's amazing culture during their years in hypergrowth. He's seen by many as the gold standard. His latest book is, as I said, Workquake, Embracing the Aftershock of COVID-19 to create a better model for working. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and help me to welcome the talent hacker himself, Mr. Steve Kennigan. And the crowd goes wild, young man.
Great. I'm glad to hear it. And Dove, it's so great to be here.
Yeah, it took us a while, mate. I'm glad we caught up. It's good. I really enjoyed our last conversation. In fact, I was reviewing it yesterday. I thought, that was a great convo. I'm really excited about where we're going today.
Me too.
So where I always like to start is in the context of leadership development. You're brought in all the time, just like I am. So in the context of leadership development, what is the most frustrating thing that seems glaringly obvious to you, but is ignored or dismissed by others or even by the companies or organizations that might bring you in?
Boy, I have a bunch that I could speak to, Dove, but I think leadership development as a concept is something that I feel has been shelved in this era of diminishing companies that are building for a 100-year destiny. Most companies are building for an 8 to 10-year exit. They're not planning to be around in, a future decades. So why would you invest in leadership? Let's build our value, let's harvest it, and let's move on to the next adventure. And so I feel that there is some roadkill with that strategy. I'm not blaming anyone because you can create value a lot faster than you ever have before, but we have a serious deficit in quality, mature leadership today. And I don't think people recognize what's happening with the way that we're creating value in such fast time frames. We're sacrificing investing in building leadership for the long term. And that's something that is sort of like the frog in the boiling kettle of water. We're not appreciating that that's really what's happening right now, and it's causing all sorts of collateral damage.
That's a really good point. Because obviously you're so right in that companies are often now looking at how they can add value to what they can sell, right? So they're not looking at, well, we're going to be around for 100 years, so we've got to make this really good. They're looking at it from a place of, we can sell this in 5 years for multiple trillions of dollars or whatever it is. And so we don't need to do that. That's a very good point. So therefore, leadership development becomes secondary, of course. But in the meantime, it's a dichotomy, because in the meantime, those companies are trying to grow their value, trying to be a good company, as in sales value, but you can't do that without great leadership. So it's kind of a catch-22.
It is, and the system, it's really interesting if you step back and take a look at this. The competitive landscape has been impacted because what it costs you and the time it takes to build a viable entity is much less than it's ever been. You don't need to buy servers. You don't need to have these huge amounts of equipment, or now you don't need all these facilities, and you can copy and mimic an idea really quickly. So that's putting pressure on companies to, hey, we need to build our moat fast, and we need to create, a viable value proposition and harvest it quickly. And then someone probably will build a better mousetrap and obsolete our idea. So let's take advantage of it while we can. That doesn't include or doesn't make the value of, okay, let's build for the long term, and you're going to be here 50 years from now, and this is going to be a company for your children. That's not how we're thinking about it. And that competitive landscape, I think, is driving that. Meanwhile, look at the examples we have, like Exhibit A, Uber; Exhibit B, WeWork; Exhibit C, Better.com; Exhibit D, Bird.com. These really failed leaders supported by venture capital that wants to mine their money, and all kinds of ridiculous cultural, violations, left, right, center, the way they're letting people go, the way they're communicating. ByteDance 2 weeks ago decides that they're going to let go 200 of their learning and development team, and referred to those people as those people weren't aligned with our mission. no accountability that it's their job to align that team, that they hired those people. And it was almost like a dispersion of responsibility. They're not our people. Those people were doing what they were supposed to be doing, so they're being let go. It was shocking, but they put that out in a press release. They thought that was going to be something that the public market would value. And so we're seeing multiple examples of this play out. And, my feeling is, hey, we should expect better, but this is what the system is producing right now. It's really, really interesting.
So let's take that up, because that's you brought up some very important, and you talk about it in the book. In the intro, I spoke about the post-pandemic and, the Great Resignation. And prior to the pandemic, I wrote about this in my book in 2015. Prior to the pandemic, the average tenure was 1.2 years. And companies were freaking out about that, of course. However, in your book, you speak about how focusing on tenure, or lack thereof, actually, is the wrong focus. So what is the right focus if that's the wrong focus? Because we've been, including me, been saying, you got to make it so that people want to stick around. But it seems like you're saying, let's not focus on tenure.
Yeah, because I don't think any executive that I speak to around the world, and I speak to a lot of them in Europe and US and Latin America, what's your biggest problem? Can't keep the people that I have and can't find the people I need. And when I do, they leave. And I said, well, why is that? And then their first knee-jerk reactions, short attention span, millennial, career sugar high, shopping for promotion, disloyal, to which I say, your children that you raised with the values that you imbued on them. And then joking aside, I say, listen, the workforce today sees more of what is possible. There's more transparency to opportunity than any time in history. And you can't tell me 40 years ago, if you could see what they could see today, how every company is compensating, what every culture is like, what every leadership styles, what the selling habits are of the executive team and the board, you can't tell me you're going to be in the same company 30 years later. You can't. It is a transparent candy store of opportunity, especially for knowledge workers. So they're taking advantage of it. And what we're seeing with that is, if you put yourself, and I don't think this is a generational shift as much as it is a transparency to the universe of opportunity, which is a great thing. But I believe that that's creating, and by the way, the future of work is the worst marketing campaign in history, because we're scaring the hell out of people. You read a little bit of the intro of my book, which is robots are coming, your job's toast, whatever skills you need in the future, you probably won't be able to learn. So we're going to go through a digital transformation. And we talk more to our people about tech than we do about making their world more impactful and making their lives more beautiful. So what's happening is we're forcing people, and this world of opportunity is more visible, to be loyal to their learning, not to a company. So and by the way, I think we've miscast tenure to, I only care about you when you work here. I don't care about you for your whole career. That's dishonest. It's short-sighted. And what I'm trying to say through my book, Workquake, is listen, isn't the person you want to work for, the organization you want to work with, someone that cares about you for the entirety of your working life, not just when you work for them? And isn't that more honest? And nobody believes we're going to slow tenure. No, slow the turnover rate. Nobody believes that. No. So don't be frustrated when your superstar leaves. Shame on you if you didn't build a backup plan, if you didn't do cross-sharing, if you didn't build knowledge sharing. And there are industries now that are learning, and I could list them if you want, but there are industries that are expecting turnover and benefiting from turnover and becoming a place where they appreciate the beginning conversations. Let's talk about when you leave. How can we help get you there and optimize for your opportunity here? Now, am I happy about that? No. Does it make me comfortable to share that with the audience? No. But listen, that's the world we live in. It's like when I was at LinkedIn, we were building the site, and I had one visit with in the boardroom of Walmart, the largest employer in America aside from the government. And the head of HR Walmart said to me, why would I buy LinkedIn and enable all my employees to find another job? And I said, because they're going to do it anyway. And don't you want to turn them, all your employees, into recruiters, and take advantage? This is the world of transparency is here. So we can all resist it, but I don't think anyone believes it's going to change. So let's be able to expect it, and that means new business models. That means we're going to have to re-engineer work and jobs. And yes, it's hard. It's going to be different, but I think it's necessary because, as you said earlier, the genie's out of the bottle. People want something different today.
So you said something there that, you know, I've had pushback on myself when I present it, which is, you know, how am I supposed to, you know, take care of the rest of their career? I can barely train them to be with me. And you want me to focus in the rest of their career and know that I really care about them, when the bottom line is the bottom line, right? When I really care about whether you're going to bring value to my organization, whether you're going to cost me or whether you're going to add value to me. And it's kind of like, show me before I'll give you. And I know that's, I try to explain to them, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Right? It's crazy. But we are in a very different time. And so I want to talk to you about what's going on, because as we record this, it is, you know, we're second quarter 2022. And as we talk about this, you know, there are companies in Sweden, I think it's Sweden, or was it Norway? I can't remember now. Sorry, forgive me. Who are paying $500 for people to show up for interviews because they can't get people to show up. There are many companies now around the world who are offering a $5,000 bonus for anybody who stays 6 months. So at the end of 6 months, you get a $5,000 bonus because we want you to stick around. Okay. And on top of that, here's the new thing, that the newest research, and I've been talking about this, blowing people's minds with this one, which is that some new global research is showing up that Gen Z, who are now 22 at the eldest, are asking for day pay. Day pay. People go, what's day pay? You pay me for today, and then I go home, and I might come back tomorrow. So you better create some hooks for me to come back tomorrow. And what I say to them is, you might think that that's an anomaly, but you thought flex time was an anomaly. You thought remote working was an anomaly. What if it's actually a, you know, crystal ball? It's letting you see into the future. When you think about that, and, you know, because you do so much work with these companies and their cultures and predicting the future and showing what's your thoughts when I bring that up? You probably know about it anyway.
Two stories, two examples of practical examples I'll give you. When we were building LinkedIn, and we were a relatively new organization. When I joined, we were 6 years old, and everyone was new to the company, right? So, but the power of newness and new people and new ideas, I think sometimes we undervalue. Every time we hit an obstacle, and it felt like every day something was on fire, like we violated some privacy policy in Germany, or so there's a data breach over here. We would sit around as an executive team, and the CEO would go around and say, hey, Deep, at Google, how would you solve this problem? Hey, Steve Sordello, at Adobe, how'd you solve this problem? Hey, Erica, when you were at Salesforce, how'd you solve this problem? Steve, when you were at Cisco. That intelligence from other places was our source of problem solving. And what we've been building, and this is my biggest frustration with the world of work today, is we're using tools and models and infrastructure for a slower production cycle of work. Production cycles are way faster today, but we still have all this bloated, slow moving, keep people in the department, keep people in division, keep people a long time. That's not synchronous with the fact that most job descriptions have a shelf life value of about a week today. And then the work's changing and you need new responsibilities and the market and customer needs change. So we're building for slow and consistency when we need to be building to prepare for instability. And again, it feels uncomfortable. That was a powerful experience at LinkedIn. Let me take a current with another, let's take a non-tech industry. Well, in theory, it was non-tech and now it's becoming increasingly tech, automobile industry. The most valuable company in the automobile industry today hasn't been around the longest, isn't selling the most cars, isn't making the most profit. Their median tenure is about 2 years for their employees. And most of the people they hired to engineer rocking the automobile industry were not from the automobile industry. That's Tesla. They are crushing. They're worth more than Ford, Toyota, and Honda combined. What's going on? Why is the investor community, what are they voting for at Tesla that they're not seeing it? People who've been doing this really successfully for decades, General Motors, killing it, right? Way more profitable than Tesla. But the investor community says, nope, we're betting on Tesla. Why? Because they believe they've got a higher innovative capacity. New people, new ideas, new ways of solving problems. I think we've got a problem, Dove, that we've overvalued long tenure and underappreciated new people and new ideas. Now, that's easy for me to say, and we've got a lot of listeners like, no, that can work for other people. It's not going to work here. But listen, I think that we're valuing the wrong things if it's how long someone's in a seat versus how fast can we innovate. And you're going to innovate faster with new people and new ideas. You just are. You have a greater body of intelligence at your service in a way that's the diversity, business case, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I've talked a lot about is there was a lot of screaming and shouting even 10 years ago about how I'm spending all this money training these people, and then they leave and that they use that to get a better paycheck somewhere else. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But where are they going? They're going back into the work pool. And if you've created a culture that is innovative and is actually caring and loving and people want to be there, then I, as a millennial, which I'm not, but as a person who, a millennial would say, listen, I just was working for Dove over there, loved working for him. He's a great company, but I want to learn something new and they don't do this. So I'm going over there to do that. But you know what, Charlie? That's a great place for you to go. So they become, as you said, they become the recruiters for your culture, right? And so they take their skills they got from you and they go out into the work pool. But the work pool is now coming back, bringing their skills that they learned at Microsoft or they learned at LinkedIn or they learned at Shopify or wherever it is, and they're bringing those to you. And I think that we play the game as if it's all about loss rather than about reciprocity.
Correct. And let's play this out, Dove, because you're onto something which I think is really powerful. And that is, if we future forward the reality that more people are leaving companies faster than ever, that means all of us have more alumni than we've ever had. How many companies do you know that curate, nurture alumni relationships? Very few. You know who does this really well? The professional services consulting industry. Hey, we're going to have a seminar this week for all the alumni. We're going to have a new speaker around some new legislation that might be interesting to you, some changes in the economic policy for China, or, an update on, legal implications for business with the Ukraine-Russia conflict, whatever it is. I have worked in 7 major companies in my career journey before I decided to go on my own about 10 years ago. One company of those 7 regularly reaches out to me. And I want to offer this not just to sort of say how excited I feel to be sought after as a departing employee, but to offer an idea for people to take advantage of. LinkedIn reaches out to me and says, hey, we've got a new product. We'd love to hear your reaction to it. Will you give us feedback? Hey, we're going to have a LinkedIn alumni luncheon. Can you sit on a panel and just share what you've been up to the last few years? And it's just so inspiring. And I want to do everything I can. And so I send them people I meet, startups I meet. Hey, you need to talk to these people. This could be a good acquisition target for you guys. Or there's someone that wants to work for you and I've vetted them and I think they'd be great. That makes me want to help. And so that's thinking bigger than only caring about you when you work for me, And I think you're absolutely right, Dove. It's a real missed opportunity that, and I get it, hey, I got to make my number. I got to hit the quarterly earnings. I don't have time to talk to those people. And the intellectual property lawyers are saying, don't give away our secrets, big problems. It's wrong. Don't let the lawyers drive this. That's a real gold mine of referrers, of potential boomerangers who come back and work for you in the future. Right.
But that's where I actually want to finish this piece before we go on to part 2 of the show. What you've just said there is like, it's a mind quake for employers, right? It's like it needs to rattle the very foundation of the way you think right now. We have this, it's almost a use, abuse, and dispose of, like churn mentality of you come work for us, we get the very best out of you, we squeeze the very best out of you, and then whatever's left, we throw in the trash heap, and maybe you'll recover and you'll go somewhere else, and hopefully we've squeezed everything out of you so that you can't actually add any value to anybody else. Yeah, I shake my head at it too. And that's the approach. And what I'm just saying that I really want to sort of stamp hard here with what you've said is your alumni are your recruiters. Your alumni are this pool of knowledge and input that you can't get. Because here's one of the things I'll say to you as you listen to this, as you watch this. This is something I tell leaders all the time. I say, you're the CEO. And they go, yeah. And I go, how much truth do you get? It's a profound question. And people go, yeah, you know, you get barely any. Barely any. Why? Very simple. Because if I tell you the truth and you don't like it, you can me and I've got to pay my mortgage. So I'm not telling you the truth. I'm going to tell you a dressed up version of the truth that's not going to upset you too much. It's going to show you that I'm innovative and that I'm willing to challenge because I'm aggressive, but I'm not going to push it too far because you could boot me out of the door. But if you did that with alumni, the way you've just described, if you have this community of alumni who you treated well and enjoyed being there, and you say, listen, tell me the truth. We've got this new technology. Would you try it out? It's a piece of shit. Your employee's not going to tell you that because they have to look after their wages. So this is like what you just said there, I think is such a great boom. Like that's a mic drop. This is such a powerful resource. Alumni are your resource. And we have been trained to think of them as the enemy. They've gone over to the other side. They've gone to the dark side.
They divorced us. They don't love us anymore, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's crazy. So thank you so much for that. We're coming to the end. We're at the end of part one of the show here. We're going to come back in part two in our delicious conversation with Steve Cadigan, who is the author of Workquake. But before we do, Steve, please tell our audience where they can find out more about you, your book, and all of your wonderful resources.
You can find me on LinkedIn very easily. Website, stevecadigan.com. I have a TikTok channel if you'd like some humorous attempts at poking fun at the world of work. And again, it's on Steve Cadigan.
Fabulous. We will make sure that all those are posted in the show notes, and we will see you in just one click. Till then, stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about the workquake that you are standing in. Are you hiding under the table? Or are you building something very solid that moves forward through the quake and actually brings the people back in that you thought were already out? Stay curious, my friends. We'll see you in one click.